This video is going to be a look at how the Ravens slowed down Joe Burrow and the Bengals' high-powered offense in Sunday night's win. Really going to focus on the first four possessions. I think I have 10 plays overall. Skipped a couple of running plays. Just going to show the coverage variations, the tactical decisions that the Ravens defensive staff and players made. In some cases, the recognition that our players had in recognizing a formation or a particular player's alignment and then kind of hedging their bets or communicating to their teammates what they thought was coming. Of course, the first four possessions for the Bengals were all punts. After an interception, I think, by Lamar in the second quarter, the Bengals are able to go and score on their fifth possession. Game really evened out from that standpoint on. Bengals offense, they figured out some ways to move the ball in terms of the run plays, shotgun run plays, putting the running back on the same side as the tight end, what I call a gun. A lot of Bengals fans online prior to this game and earlier in the season as well have been talking about how predictable their offense is, and we kind of got a view of it Sunday night as Ravens fans. Under center, it's either play action or a handoff, but generally a handoff. In the gun, they were like 18% run, 84% pass coming into this game, something like that. So wildly skewed towards the pass when they're in the shotgun. And the way they ended up hurting the Ravens was going shotgun and running the ball. But these first four possessions, in my opinion, I don't know that the Bengals progressed to that unless the Ravens forced them to. I think it was a tactical shift, to be honest with you, that the Ravens had, during the game or during the week in planning for it, uh, giving the Bengals certain looks pre-snap and then kind of shifting to different looks post-snap. This one, it looks like our typical kind of zone alignment with the Ravens where you got two safeties. We played a lot of zone from a two-high safety structure, cover two, Tampa two, different match coverages. This is man, though. Number one receiver is essentially running a pick or a rub on Patrick Queen, and then the running back is running out into the flats. Ravens are playing man, but they disguised it well in a lot of situations, if you ask me. Joe Burrow's smart. 2nd and 10 there. That was the third play of the game, I believe, throwing it out into the flats for a nice gain. All right, 3rd and 4. The thought was the Ravens are going to play a lot of cover two. They weren't going to play a lot of man. Well, because the rest of the league is playing a lot of cover two. One guy, if you ask me, that deserves a lot of credit for making it all work is Pepe Williams. Pepe Williams lined up like he was possibly going to play man on the number 2 receiver often, and then he would drive back to half field safety. Other times he was asked to cover in the slot. I thought the Ravens used him and Brandon Stevens expertly, to be honest with you. This is another example of a zone. Stevens was carrying, I think this is Boyd, that could be Higgins, up to a certain depth. And then once he passes him off to the safety, which is Chuck Clark, he's going to drive back downfield, presumably on some underneath routes. This is the hit that Calais Campbell had on Joe Burrow on a nice little stunt between him and Matabike, where Calais ends up, basically knocking the center to the ground and then proceeding untouched to the quarterback. A large piece of the tactical adjustment, if you ask me, is the willingness to rush 4 and eschew trying to rush 5. We had a number of situations earlier this year, I think, where we were chasing the sack, and it didn't come, even by bringing 5 or 6 guys. Against the Bengals, it seemed like we erred on the side of coverage. Now, this is not a pass play, but this is an example of some disruptive behavior by JPP getting in the backfield. I covered this in the Marcus Peters video I did earlier today. He's identifying something pre-snap that he sees in the formation, in Jamar Chase motioning into the backfield. I mean, some of the things you've seen him do with Jamar Chase in the backfield, it seems like they're trying to get him the ball. And to me, Marcus Peters might be wrong about the specific play concept. It looks like he might be indicating that it's a wheel coming. Okay, so like maybe this tight end's going to run a seam, and this running back's going to run a wheel trying to take advantage of us down to the boundary side. So maybe he's wrong about the play concept that happened, but he's not wrong about who's getting the ball, and the pursuit is spectacular. Like, for all the complaints about the Ravens defense early in the season, and hey, we blew a huge lead against the Dolphins. That's a couple of points. Look at the pursuit we got here. You've got layered pursuit. Everyone for the Ravens is on this side of the hash to the boundary or to the sideline. That's rare. Normally you end up with, maybe a couple of these backside guys end up in the middle of the field just kind of watching, buying a ticket because the play's away from them. Not these dudes, they were dialed in. If the Ravens play this kind of defense every week, we're gonna take a step up in terms of what people think we are defensively. All right, Tampa 2, and I think JPP ends up getting a sack. Tampa 2, if you're not sure, if you're unaware, is what a lot of people have been playing against the Bengals. It's been giving them problems. Now, I'm not saying Joe Burrow can't figure out Tampa 2. I don't talk like that, Their coach can't figure out Tampa 2. No, it's just a coverage that rushes 4. So from a standpoint of spatial awareness, you have, you know, you have 3 guys who can play deep routes. This is and the one thing that the Ravens did too, which is really brilliant on how they played the Tampa 2, is sometimes it was Chuck Clark, sometimes it was Marcus Williams, who was the guy that was playing the middle third area. And that's a brilliant adjustment, if you ask me. Again, you've got Pepe Williams, a rookie. Marcus Williams is playing the middle third in between the hashes. And then this is Chuck Clark playing the other half field safety. That's a brilliant adjustment by the Ravens, um, not asking Harrison, Bynes, or even Queen to be the guy who's running between the hashes. The other teams, the Dallas Cowboys, the guy who they were having execute this technique was Leighton Vander Esch. Maybe the Ravens didn't feel like our inside linebackers were athletic enough to do that. But our linebackers did a great job of defending the hash, I thought, in pass coverage. Is there times like this where you have a running back or a tight end open? Sure there are, absolutely. But that's the idea of this coverage in some ways, particularly on 3rd and 12, is let them throw it in front, let's go make the tackle, and then it's 4th and 3, 4th and 4, force them to make a decision. Here's how much of an impact I think this had. 3rd possession, first play of the 3rd possession, okay? I think the Bengals were already frustrated. Look at the play from the 2nd possession where they put Chase in the backfield, ran a sweep to him, all right? That's unusual for them. They threw 2 screens to Chase the first 2 plays of the game. So maybe you'd say, Coach, they're just trying to get the ball to Chase. All right, maybe you're right. Is this what they were trying to do? Is this in their game? Is this a part of the game plan? I mean, where do you come up with this and think that, Joe Burrow's athletic. He's an athletic dude. But compared to these guys, on the defensive side of the ball, he's not really going to make them miss when it's a direct flow, meaning it's downhill flow. Now, once these guys drop out in coverage and he gets set back in the backfield to throw the ball, yeah, there's plenty of times where Joe Burrow scrambles and makes people miss, picks up first downs. He did it in the AFC title game last year. This to me is a very weird call. It to me indicates that they were not expecting us to play the same coverage as everybody else did, and I'm not sure whether that's a good. I don't know if we should interpret that as a good thing or a bad thing as Ravens fans. Like let's look at it this way. Do they think so poorly of our coaches that they didn't think our coaches were going to recognize and use the blueprint the rest of the NFL is using? I mean, the Bengals have lost 3 games, 2 by 3 points and 1 by 2 points. So they're not playing bad. They're going to win a lot of games. But the Tampa 2 is definitely holding them down. There is no doubt. Did they think that the Ravens weren't gonna utilize it? And so then when we did, they were kind of caught off guard? Because that's the first play of the 3rd possession. It really catches me by surprise. A QB draw, gains like 3 or 4 yards. I'm not sure what they expected there. Another thing the Ravens were, and I mentioned this in the Marcus Peters video, they were physical. This is contact in the backfield. This should not be called. That shouldn't be called. It's contact in the backfield. If, for those of you that are new football fans, I got news for you. I was a Rams fan when they played the Patriots in the Super Bowl. The Patriots outside linebackers did this to Marshall Faulk like 20 times. They made the night miserable for him. It wasn't called once. So I don't have sympathy, for real. But in any case, they got Chase in the backfield, slipping him out into the flats. He can't even really look for the ball because Oweh has grabbed him and held him. It ends up being incomplete. What could have been possibly a nice concept because it looks like Queen is tracking him, but just hasn't closed enough, and Humphrey is man there. So it's an interesting coverage. I have not seen the Ravens do this, meaning the outside linebacker chip or collision a running back going into the flats. I've actually complained about it a couple of times this year that we don't do that. And in my opinion, we did this because it was Jamar Chase. I wonder and I hope that we continue to do it as a default mechanism. All right, the very next play is a 3rd and 8, and guess what the Ravens are playing on 3rd down? Cover 2. It's not exactly a Tampa 2, although it does look like Queen is running the pipe here to me, so I could be wrong. This could be a version of Tampa 2. I talked about this play in the Marcus Peters video. Let's go from bottom side to top side. Look at Humphrey being physical with the receiver, knocks him off his route. That's number one. Number two, these two, Harrison and Queen, they've done this hundreds of times in their career. Look where they're lined up. They're lined up threatening the A-gap blitz. I think Burrow and the Bengals at this point knew that we weren't going to be blitzing a ton with those guys, and we drop them out, but we do bring an edge blitz off the corner with Stevens. Hurst chips him and then slips out into the flats. You know, all the tactical decisions, all the schematic stuff, all the teaching doesn't mean anything if you don't tackle. And this is Marcus Peters tackling almost incredible hulk of a tight end that they have now in Hayden Hurst. I mean, he looks like he's gained 20, 25 pounds and gotten faster and more explosive in the last 3 or 4 years since we had him in Baltimore. So all of the things that we've done tactically, and, you know, one of them I'm still not a big fan of. We're dropping Oweh out of here. We're still playing a cover 2. Still got a flat defender, hook defender. Again, this looks like he could be the high hole middle third defender in the cover 2. We call it the middle third defender. I know that the math doesn't work out there. And there's your 2 high safeties playing cover 2. When the Ravens were able to get them in these situations, these 3rd and longs, and play the cover 2, Burrow had 2 choices. Number 1, throw the check down to somebody like Hurst or a running back. Or number 2, force the ball in to an intermediate route. That's how he threw the pick to Patrick Queen. All right, 4th possession. We only got 3 plays here. This is a run play. I talked about this a little bit earlier. This is a great read by Chuck Clark. How do you get away with playing 2 high safeties all the time? And at this point, I think the Bengals are starting to figure it out. They got the running back and the tight end on the same side. They got a tight split by the receiver, so they can do a lot. The tight end, Hurst, is just going to base block Harrison. I'm not sure that is Hurst, to be honest with you. The tackle has a great angle to get to Urban. Bynes has a difficult job, you know, because he got fit in the C gap. Mixon also a couple times would kind of get up near the line, and then he'd bring this back to the other side. So it's difficult to handle this when you're the lone inside linebacker. How do you get help? How do you mitigate that? You let the safety read the tight end, get his run pass read off of that, and fill quickly. Watch the timing of when Chuck takes off. It's when the tight end engages Harrison, and you get this little kind of like down block by the right tackle on Urban. It's still a 4-yard gain, but that's how you mitigate, you know, having that lighter box is, and let's be honest, that's what the college game does. They got the boundary side safety between 7 and 9 yards, and he's reading the M-man on the line of scrimmage or the tight end for run pass. And if it is run, then he fills, and he becomes the 7th defender in the box. Because as it is right now, we only got 6. So we had some great teaching going during the week. There can be no doubt. Like, for those of us that have had problems with the defense, you know, prior to this week, or prior to the Bills game too, I should say, because they've allowed exactly 40 points to the Bills and the Bengals. I think that's pretty significant. But in any case, they deserve credit, the coaches, the players, for the teaching that they used last week. I wonder, did we have some of these coverages in and we just weren't using them? You know, I wonder about that. Or did they just teach them all last week? All right, this is Pepe Williams. This is a cover 2. It's going to be a sack by Josh Bynes. Again, we're dropping Oweh out of here. The difference is we're dropping Oweh out of here to the field. That's a little more dangerous if you ask me. I had spot shadowed Pepe Williams, man. Just watch Pepe. We can use this guy to do a lot. So he was lined up down here. We drop him to a half-field safety. Marcus Williams rolls over. Chuck Clark, we're going to track him as I rewind this, all right? Let's track Chuck. What we're doing is we're making it look like man, 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 all the way across. That's what we're doing. And then we're rolling to, essentially, a Tampa 2, where Chuck is the middle third defender. If he gets a vertical, he would run with it. Now, this could be just a regular cover 2 where we're not asking him to be the Tampa 2 Mike. But as it is, we get Oweh dropping out of there, Harrison dropping out of there, and Bynes comes free on the sack. So many guys contributed to this. That's the thing that I think is amazing. Like if it was only two dudes who were just utterly dominant, then you could kind of pass it off as like, oh, such and such just played the game of his life. All these guys played fantastic. 3rd and 14. This is our rookie 4th-round pick who tackled Jamar Chase once or twice earlier. Now he's tackling their huge tight end, Hayden Hurst, to prevent him from getting a first down. Hayden Hurst catches this ball at the 20, 21. And there's Pepe on the 37, 36. And he meets him at the halfway point, essentially. Makes the tackle low, stops him, forces a punt. So much passion and energy by these guys. I hope they can continue to replicate it. You know, is there a formula for the Giants offense? Well, you got to deal with Saquon Barkley, right? You have to treat Saquon Barkley like you treated Jamar Chase. You got to know where he is. You got to understand the formation. And then you got to tackle him. And that's going to be a challenge, like no doubt. But you got to have the coverages installed to stop their main pass plays or at least slow them down. They didn't stop Joe Burrow. You know, it was 3 possessions there where Burrow was moving the ball downfield, using the run play, using some short passes. But he didn't get any explosive plays that have really defined that team. You know, and in my opinion, and some Bengals fans might not like this if they hear it, I think the defense is the better unit. I do, even with T. Higgins there. And I said it last year during the playoffs. The Bengals defense has the ability to shut people down in the second half, keep them out of the end zone. And then all their offense needs to do is hit 3 or 4 big plays, and they can score some points, and they score enough points to win. The problem now that they have is there's been a wrench thrown in the tracks because now people aren't giving up the big play because they're playing a lot of cover 2, a lot of Tampa 2. Not playing so much man or man free or even cover 3. So they're not presenting Burrow, Chase, and Higgins and Boyd with those. I don't want to use the word easy, but those guys make it look easy because they're so talented. And Sunday night, what the Ravens did was they deployed their players in a fundamental way, and they made things more difficult on those guys. More difficult on them than certainly the 2 matchups in 2021. Let me know what you think of my video on how the Ravens slowed down Burrow and the Bengals. The Bengals will certainly have some tactical answers or attempt at answers when we play them at the end of the season, but there's a lot of games between now and then, a lot of opportunities to evolve our scheme, for them to evolve their scheme, and figure out how better to deal with the Tampa 2 that everybody's playing against them. Let me know what you think of the Ravens basically taking a look at how everybody else defended the Bengals and saying, here's everybody giving us the answers to the test. Let's just go ahead and fill in, whatever letter we need to fill in depending on down and distance. And I thought they did that perfectly Sunday night.